Today, we're asking and answering what is possibly the most important question ever asked by all of humanity. I know, that's a shocking statement. You'd be like, wait, you're interviewing Dr. Jordan Peterson? No, this is way deeper. Are MP5's still relevant in 2025? Or are they just a vibe? Let's dig into it. Come along with me. Hop on the struggle bus as I try to put this rail for Midwest on this MP5. And we discuss that very deep question. So, where are we going to start? Are MP5's relevant? Well, let's do a little pros and cons, shall we? MP5's have been around for a very long time, and they're an extremely proven system. They're roller delayed or roller locked, depending on how you want to defend that case on the internet. Technically, it's a wedge system, but let's not get into angles and geometry and math I can't do. They're extremely reliable. They're soft shooting, and they're consistent. They're easy to control in full auto. And for those of you lucky enough to have one in full auto, you'll know that they're an absolute joy to shoot. They are surprisingly accurate guns, especially if you get the ones that were actually made in Germany, because their barrel technology and their metallurgy was pretty fantastic. Although the clones, like we have here today from Zenith, aren't bad either. Really pretty impressive. In fact, the Zenith guns were made in Turkey on German machines originally, although since then they have updated and they're making guns here in the States. But overall, these guns are pretty useful, pretty effective for 9mm PCC carbines. But that brings us to, what is the point of a PCC or a pistol caliber carbine typically chambered in 9mm anyway? What good is that when we have things like 300 Blackout with 7 or 9 inch barrels? Well, kind of depends on what you're trying to do and what your job is. If you're a military guy out there shooting people in the face at night at close range, there really isn't a use for these. 300 Blackout's gonna be fantastic. And honestly, if you're that kind of guy, or you're somebody doing super covert work, you're probably using something like this Flux Raider. And I get it, right? It's super compact and there's no appreciable ballistic difference between this barrel and this barrel, right? We're just talking about velocity and we're talking about 9mm. They're gonna do the same thing. This is lighter, more modular, smaller. I get it. So if you're one of the 8 dudes out there doing that, you're probably got the thing set up the way you need to anyway. However, if you're the civilian, maybe you like something like this. I mean, this thing's classic. This is an H&R 9mm, uses the old Colt mags. Yeah, it's super cool. It's a vibe. You can run it in competition. Maybe it's cheaper, easier, softer to shoot, good to train new shooters on. Ton of fun. But again, not necessarily a super useful personal defense weapon necessarily. Now, I know you guys are going to argue and say,
bah, but wait, I can do all these things with 9mm.
We carry 9mm probably every day with your EDC gun. Yes, you do, but you do that because you can't carry a 300 Blackout in your pants, probably. Not because it's the best ballistic choice for personal defense. So with that in mind, what are the uses of MP5s? Well, like I said, they are super reliable. They last freaking forever, and they're not super hard to maintain. But until fairly recently, they've been kind of hard to upgrade and accessorize. You sort of had maybe something similar like this, where maybe you have a classic stock or a folding stock of some variety that was super expensive from some company or place in Europe. You probably didn't have optics on it. Probably didn't have a rail. Then Knights came along and put a rail on it early in the GWAT. It was made famous by the SAS back in the day, doing that hotel raid. But again, you didn't have a lot of options. But starting in around 2016, 2017, we saw a lot more accessorization start to hit the markets. Companies like Midwest Industries started making optics rails and hand guards that gave you a lot more options. Companies like JMac started making awesome stocks that worked for anything that had a Picatinny rear end, and they started making things like this, which is pretty stiff and kind of hard to fold, but we'll get it, where you can just put a nice little folding device on some Picatinny, push out these 2 pins, which is another nice feature of MP5s in general, and you've got a cool folding stock or brace, depending on how you want to do that. So there is some relevancy there if that's your thing. If you want a shorter, fun gun that, you know, maybe you're not counting on staking your life on, but will still work for you. So now that's sort of what are PCCs, what are they good for, what are MP5 specifically good for, maybe better at than other PCCs on the market like the Flux, or maybe ARs that were converted to 9mm. Like I said, a little bit more accurate, a little bit more reliable, super fun to shoot comparatively, and they're more prolific and more easily accessorizable than they used to be. But now let's specifically talk about how we can get this thing from maybe classic 90s vibe to modern 2000 capable platform. All right, so we've got the rail on. So what does this allow us to do? Why are we talking about this? Well, we talked about how practical are they? That's up for debate, but here's the deal. If you want a fun gun to shoot that is quite a vibe and super reliable, you're still not going to beat the MP5. It is still the king of pistol caliber carbines, PCCs. It's a vibe. They're now, as you can see, very accessorizable. They look great with our optics. And it's the gun from everyone's favorite Christmas movie, Die Hard. In fact, this is going to be my audition for Die Hard 4. Die Harder. But guys, for real, how often have you seen something like this? You know, yeah, you could get your Flux Raider, and Flux is cool. And sure, you've got your 300 Blackout that does all the neat things, subs and supers and all that jazz. But let's be honest, deep down in our heart of hearts, we all want to be a super cool guy running around with a tricked out MP5 doing awesome stuff. And now you can. So I want to hear from you guys in the comments. What do you think? What are you running? And when are you going to get your MP5? Thanks so much for watching. Train All Free. See you next time.
Can you give me that big smile again?
That's so cool.
I actually really want one.
Yeah. Yo. Yeah. I just wish it was a machine gun. But we can't have it all.
They're so expensive.
They're so expensive. So expensive.